You won a title with the Celtics and the Heat. Which title meant more to you?
Probably the Celtics championship, because I hadn't won anything up to that point. And when you come from Seattle, where we had struggled, we had one playoff berth, and to go from the Celtics were worst to first, it was almost like unimaginable. So that probably, when it's the first time when you get there, it's like an amazing feeling.
You, during your speech, gave a shout-out to the Celtics players winning a championship there. Mm-hmm. Still, we've talked about this. It's just such a weird relationship, or lack thereof, that continues. Why is it it feels like there's something that's always going to be there, unless it's the media that keeps it there? Because it feels like you've tried to move on with it or tried to mend fences here.
Yeah, I've even when I left, it was, you just know that this is what you have to do for your career, and there's no harm. You're not creating any ill will as I leave. It's just all about trying to figure out how to improve your career. I focus more on what we did in the 5 years we spent together.
Could you have left the Celtics differently, and therefore we wouldn't have?
Well, that to me is really on the eye of the beholder. I think the people who feel some kind of way about me having left, obviously, I was very loved in the city, and I still feel the same way about the city because of what we've done and what we did. So I've heard from people that said, we just hate that you went to Miami. The fact that we hate LeBron, you went to LeBron. You could have went to Phoenix and it would have been all good. So it's a bunch of ideas where they were upset because of where I ultimately ended up going, and then the fact that I won was even more of a wedge that drove in people's minds. So there's nothing I can do about it, because every sports personality, every player, your job is to go and figure out how to win. And, every person in any walk of life at any job, you go to figure out where you can best put yourself in a situation you could be successful, make the most money, and hopefully win if it's a sport environment.
But you've also talked about this, that you had family telling you it feels like you're being shunned, that you're not getting the ball.
Yeah.
You'd be coming off a pick, and Rondo's not going to throw you the ball.
Right.
They're telling you this. And then did you come to the realization of, I'm being frozen out here?
Yeah, and I went and talked to Doc about it, and he acknowledged it. And I was surprised by that, because I was like, well, you acknowledge it and you haven't done anything about it. So whatever happened, the breakdown in the relationship, it's unfortunate. And that's why you say, well, look, with all these things, you throw it in a pot and you stir it around. It just means that ultimately it's time for me to move on, as much as it bothered me, because it was, playing in Boston was probably the most incredible experience.
That's a great team.
Those fans, they're like no other. So it's unfortunate, but it's almost like you get your walking papers and it's time to go. So there's nothing more, than your happiness that's more important when you're in a situation, when you're working a job. And so it was ultimately time that the writing was on the wall.
Do you think that KD has gotten fair criticism for leaving Oklahoma City to go? It's basically what you did.
Yeah, and I hear the comparisons being made a lot.
Yeah.
I will say that when I was a free agent, I knew that the time for me was over, and I had to decide that I was not, the option of me signing back with Boston was no longer on the table. And so ultimately I had to decide where it was that I was going to go. I had 3 teams left on the table, and that was Miami, Memphis, and Minnesota. So you tell me, you tell me, where you ultimately would have ended up.
Well, they
living.
all begin with M, but
yeah.
there's one that stands out.
There's one that stands out more.
There's weather, and then there's LeBron and D. Wade.
Yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer, when you got to put yourself in a situation to win. I think in KD's situation, he had so many different situations, that were. I actually thought he would go to Boston because I thought that was a viable option for him because they were young and they were on the verge of doing great things.
And people would have been okay with that.
Yeah, and it was like he didn't have to go to Golden State for them to win a championship. So it was, whether you could say he and I were in the same predicament or not, I didn't have that many other options.
But do you think you could see a scenario where KD, and it feels like he's sensitive that he responds to all this Twitter nonsense here, that he's ruined the NBA. He's heard that criticism, that maybe he says, all right, I'll win another title in Golden State, and then I'm going to leave Golden State after this year. And could you see him joining LeBron in Los Angeles?
It's hard to say what is possible. I don't think that he should make a decision based on what people say about him, because he made this decision in the first place because he wanted to do what was best for him and he wanted to win. So and now he's in it. You got to stick with it. You got to ride it out.
I don't know why he doesn't just embrace being a villain. Like, okay,
yeah, that's
so
just
what? You're not going to like me.
Yeah, and that's it.
Scoreboard. That's what I just say. Just scoreboard.
No matter what, people are going to disagree with whatever you do. What you got to know is this is your life. It's what you get to do on a daily basis, and you're the one. If we're writing this movie, you're the star of it. So do it.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.